And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show, Wednesday, September 18th. I am Josh Engleman, and I am here to break down a massive slate. We actually have a 12-gamer on our hands for today. Only 3 early games, a 2 o'clock for the Cubs, a 3 o'clock in Coors. So we don't have Coors on the main slate. And then you have Angels, White Sox at 4 o'clock. Slate locks tonight at 6:35. We have 6 games locking before 7 o'clock. You have 4 more in the 7 o'clock window and 8 o'clock and a 9:40. Now, if you're asking me to build out this slate, give me 1 second. If you're asking me to build out this slate, I'm doing one of 2 things. I'm either doing 2 awesome slates where you take all of those games at 6 o'clock. It's a 6-game slate, and everything locks within 15 minutes. And then you take another one at 7:10, another 6 p.m. or another 6-game slate, and that would be fun. But I know that they probably take in a little bit less volume there. Just drop the 9:40 game. Why keep it? You already have 12 games. Is it really that bad if you go 11 games, everything ends at 8:05, and then you do like a showdown Mariners, Yankees, and build it up a little bit more because it's the Yankees? No? 11 gamer where you can be done by 8 o'clock? That makes a lot of sense to me. Shave another 15 minutes off of it if you want. Or just do 6:30 to 7:10. Like, there were a lot of options for what this could have been. And all 12 games is probably my least favorite option. Look, the slate's awesome. There's no cores. Only the Dodgers are really breaking away in top stack. And even then, it's really condensed. We're going to have the opportunity to get to whatever is most interesting to us. But for real, it's just, there had to be a better way to do this. There had to. We had to. But anyway, we're going to get into it today. Sports betting went very well for me yesterday. I had an 8-unit day. DFS I thought was going to be great because I had a big A's stand. Got that second Langoliers home run, and I thought I might have had a shot. I had a couple lineups that were up there, but I had basically none of the Rangers and none of the Yankees. So I ran out of gas pretty quickly. I actually didn't look to see. Why can't I ever remember the name of that site? How do I change the day? Oh, now I'm on NFL. God, I couldn't even be further away. There's one thing I didn't look at from yesterday. Canning finished with 26.5. Man, I played like 50% of that dude yesterday. Should have got paid off in a better way. Because I had so much Griffin Canning. And he was the very clear best pitching option yesterday. And it worked out. Needed a little bit more out of Oakland. That's a shame. How was the book club meeting? The gals had a good time. Doug, morning all. Just found out I didn't get a third interview for the 15th time in the last 7 months. I'm here for comfort. That sucks, man. I'm sorry for that. I loved interviewing. That was, as weird as this sounds, like, not that it was my favorite thing, but like going to an interview was always a great thing for me. I crushed them. Everyone I've ever been in. Not to rub that in or anything. That's not what I'm trying to do, but I can remember the feeling. I had it happen twice, actually. When I first moved to North Carolina, I dragged my heels. Aaron, I'm really good at it. It shouldn't be all that surprising. I can talk. So it was really easy for me to get in there and just have conversations. And then after like doing some interviewing later on, it's really easy to see who can be a good employee and who can't. you can tell in a conversation what you're going to get out of people. So I was always really good at just shooting the shit. I mean, I went in once for a job and they were talking about the job. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how to do this. And I basically just stopped them. And I was like, listen, do I think that if you hire me, I'm going to be the best person that you get out of this job? Yeah, absolutely. I will learn this job better than whoever you hire. But I'm going to be perfectly honest. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And like they laughed. They thought it was funny. I was like, look, it's just, I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't want to waste anybody's time here. Like, I will crush this job, but I don't know what we're doing. And they were like, well, I appreciate the honesty. We had like a 15-20 minute conversation after that. And they were like, well, we don't have this, but we think you'd be really good at this other job. So we're just going to push your name along to that. And you could interview for that. I ended up getting that job. Worked out really well. But I've always sort of just enjoyed going into them because I crushed them. I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. But anyway, when I first moved to North Carolina, I didn't have a job for the first basically year I was here. I collected Pennsylvania unemployment. Being real wins you a job, 100%. 100%. So I started interviewing at basically like any bank I could find because I had a finance degree. I couldn't get in anywhere to have interviews. Ultimately, I started getting in for interviews at the State Employees Credit Union of North Carolina, which is the second biggest credit union in the United States. I'll let anybody else guess if they know what the number one is. But I had back-to-back, 2 different branches, back-to-back, got to the third interview head-to-head with somebody else. Both of those other situations were people transferring from another branch, and I didn't get either job. I was very down in the dumps after the second one. Eventually got to a third branch and ended up getting the job. Navy Federal, correct. Not Metro Credit Union. Navy Federal is the what? Look, I'm going to say this from the perspective of somebody that is talking based on 2014 data, but I'm going to assume that it hasn't changed all that much. But yeah, Navy Federal 1, North Carolina State Employees Credit Union, number 2 in terms of like assets managed. We have the North Carolina State Employees Credit Union is notoriously pessimistic in the things that they do. While I was there, they didn't offer 30-year fixed rate mortgages, and no one ever wanted them. They also don't do risk. They didn't do risk-based lending, so everybody got the same rate. They really hung out the best possible people to dry. So that was kind of a bummer. Nobody cares about anything that I'm saying. But I did filibuster for long enough to finish off the first step of my sim. So I'm going to run step number 2. And now we can get into this. Slate. So hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. And follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. All righty. Second sim is running. Let's hop immediately to the team that is number 1 in the top stack tool today for me and for Stokastic. And that would be the Los Angeles Dodgers. I've got them at 12.5% top stack. Stokastic has it 11.6. We can call it 12 and feel pretty good about it. There we go. They're going to be like middle of the pack in value. They're second in ownership behind the Braves, which I think is a very interesting thing to talk about. But Ryan Weathers is going for the Marlins. That is not a matchup that we're all that worried about. The Dodgers lineup is loaded. One of the 3 or 4 best lineups that go today, whether it's the Dodgers, the Astros, the Phillies, the Yankees. I see this pretty clearly as wanting to get to the Dodgers. Now, is that going to be feasible? Obviously, getting to Ohtani and Betts will make things more difficult. They are 6,800 and 6K respectively. But, you can get to Freddie Freeman. You can get to Will Smith. The only real downside to a Dodgers stack is that it's shortstop, third, second, third, MPE in the 9 spot. 7, 8, 9 is where you get real position. So you really have to corner. You're probably going Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Ohtani, Betts. A 5-man Dodger stack is honestly a little difficult to get to. I don't expect them to show up a lot, but I expect to see Ohtani, and I really expect to see Mookie Betts well north of the field. My assumption is that I don't get a ton of Dodgers stacks, but I do get a lot of volume of the Dodgers at the top, because those first 6 guys, by the time you get to Edman, everybody's projected for north of 8 fantasy points. I mean, put this into perspective. Tommy Edman in the 6 hole for the Dodgers today, I have with the same projection as Xavier Edwards in the leadoff spot for the Marlins. Tommy Edman in the 6 hole has as good or better than projection for everybody on the Marlins except for their leadoff hitter. And that says nothing for Freeman, Teoscar, Betts, Ohtani, who lap the other side of this game. So I like the idea of getting to the Dodgers. I don't know how feasible it is. If we talk about the Braves, now they are the number 1 stack in ownership. They're second in top stack, and both I and Stochastic have it at 9.2%. We also have the Braves 4th in value. And that's important because they're easier to get to than the Dodgers. The problem with Atlanta is the same thing as the Dodgers. Look at the first 6 hitters in the projected lineup. Outfield, outfield, outfield. First outfield catcher. 7, 8, 9. Short, third, second. So do I think I'm going to get to Michael Harris? Yeah, I think he looks great. And I think I'm going to get to Marcelo Zuna. And I think I'm going to get to Matt Olson. And I think I could get to Jorge Soler. But not easily. I mean, you can't even get their 4 of their top 5 guys in the same lineup. You already have to cut one of those outfielders. So the 2 top teams in ownership for today are really problematic when it comes to stacking. Like, let's just say that you knew you had 2 free pitchers today. You would have a hard time getting to a Braves-Dodgers stack because of how bad second, third, short is. So while those 2 teams are pulling the most ownership, and they clearly look good, like Jacob Junis is going for Cincinnati, the park plays up power. I totally understand why the Dodgers and the Braves are soaking up ownership, but I don't think they're the easiest teams to get to. I'd be very surprised if I'm stacking them heavily. We will have an answer to that in about 2 or 3 minutes. So I think the next question is, if it's not the Dodgers and it's not the Braves, who is it? The next highest ranked team I have in top stack, remember, Dodgers, 13%. Braves, 9%. So we dropped 4% there. The next team up is the Phillies at 7%. Now, the Phillies have Freddie Peralta on the opposite side. So, like, this isn't a fun matchup, but we have seen Peralta get a little squirrely. So as I look at the Phillies, Stochastic has them 6th and 22nd in value. I have them 3rd and 17th. And I think a lot of this is the lefty power. Clearly, Schwarber and Harper look like good lefty bats against Freddie Peralta. You want to add Bryson Stott as a second baseman? I think that's fine. You know, clearly you could always grab Real Muto as a $3,900 catcher. There's no ownership coming into the Phillies. They're 10th overall, 3.5%. You can go outfield short, first, outfield third, 1 through 5. 6 and 7 are second and catcher. I think the Phillies are an easier team to stack than the Braves and the Dodgers. The only question is it a little too much salary? And that's going to be something we'll figure out in the next couple minutes. I've seen some answers for Miami. Poe Degen Stoner says Orioles. I only have 2 other teams with a 6% top stack odds. One of which is the Tigers. They get Alec Marsh on the opposite side. They're way more likely to win because Skubal is going for the Tigers. Skubal being the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. Stokastic has the Tigers 5th. I have them 4th, but we're talking about 5.7% and 5.9%. That's the same number. 3rd and 5th in value. But again, look at the positions. Outfield, 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 outfield. Second, first, third, short, catcher. So again, is it hard to find outfielders today? No. It's absolutely loaded with outfielders. But to fill out the rest of this Tiger stack, you got to go to Colt Keith. You got to go to Jace Jung. You got to go to Trey Sweeney. You got to go to Jake Rogers in the 9-hole. Decent opportunity to buy a cheap homer. But while the Tigers look good, I don't know how easily they're going to get stacked. The other 6% team that I have is the Blue Jays. They've got Cody Bradford on the opposite side. Now, this one's really appealing to me. I think this is the best team you can get to. Overall, combining everything you need. Now, I am massively higher on the Blue Jays. Stokastic has them 11th, 3.5% top stack. I have them 5th at 5.5. 7th from Stokastic in value. 3rd for me, twice as good of a value. 10th in ownership. This is going to be the team that I have a lot of. No doubt. Righty power in Texas. 131 park factor. Right now, they're gearing up to roll out 8 righties plus Nathan Lukes. So I already bet Springer to homer. You go outfield, short, first, catcher, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Kirk is 2,900. And then you hit 3 MPEs. Ernie Clement, short, third. Davis Schneider, second, outfield. Leo Jimenez, second, short. We have massive flexibility for Toronto in a park that plays up power for a team that has decent power at the top. Springer, Bichette, Guerrero, Schneider, they've got enough pop. But I think the Blue Jays are the team that I'm going to end up with the most when I load in these lineups, which just finished up. Because I think they're the best combination of upside and price. And I think a 6% owned Vlad Guerrero might be the most underrepresented bat today if he didn't already play on the same team as George Springer. I have George Springer. I'll show this right here. The number one leverage play for today is a 5% owned George Springer. Guerrero and Bichette are 2 and 3. There you see Schwarber and Harper. You can see the teams that I'm kind of sniffing out here. Number one overall play is Michael Harris because he is 3,900, and that's insane. Number one play, ignoring salary, should come as no surprise. That would be Shohei Ohtani. Lineups are done. Let's see if my assumptions are correct. Top 50 lineups. But I am expecting to see quite a bit of the Blue Jays here. Ah, shit. I hope it goes here. Seems like it does. All right. And the answer is 6. So I got to the Braves. 19% of the Braves, 10% owned. So I did get to one of those two teams. I didn't get the Dodgers, only 3%. 16% of the Blue Jays, my number 2 overall stack, but I'm 4xing their current projected ownership. In particular, 25 to Springer, 30 to Bichette, 25 Guerrero, 25 Kirk, loading up on the top of the order here for the Toronto Blue Jays. I also got the other side. 10% of the Texas Rangers, 10% of the Tigers, another team that we talked about, and then the one that we didn't talk about, 11% of the Mets, who had a pretty big day yesterday. DJ Herz going for the Nats. Big strikeout stuff. No idea where the ball is going. What do the Mets do against the lefties this year? So active roster versus lefties. The Mets That's not teams. There we go. Mets are the number one offense against lefties this year. 129 WRC plus against lefties, this active roster. 21.5% K rate. So strikeout matchup gets negated a little bit for hers. The Mets are middle of the pack in walk rate. So that piece isn't going to benefit them. But you know what benefits the Mets? The fact that they're second in ISO against lefties with a 202 202 oh my god, I can't talk. I'm so excited. 202 ISO for the Mets as a team against lefties. They're projected to roll out 9 righties against the lefty in hers. The park factor for lefty power in New York, 90. The park factor for righty power in New York, 111. A 21 spot gap between lefties and righties. Every bit of this New York Mets team looks great today. Oh, by the way, they're easy to stack. Second outfield, first, third outfield. You can clearly go to Francisco Alvarez. You could use the MPE from JD Martinez if you don't want Alonso or Marte or Tyrone Taylor. You can go to Acuna's brother for a $2,900 shortstop. The highest owned guy on the Mets is 4%. This is the sneak stack for today for sure. But I ended up with 5 teams in 10% or more of my lineups. The Braves, the Blue Jays, the Mets, the Tigers, and the Rangers. And if we just take a quick peek at the Braves, it's not all Braves stacks. It's unloading a full barrel on Michael Harris. 46%, my most exposed hitter. Soler to 28, around 15 for Ozuna, Olsen, Murphy, Arcia, Urshela. But it's Michael Harris being arguably the best point per dollar play on the slate that's causing me to get more Atlanta. I'm probably neutral on the Braves overall, and Michael Harris is making up for it on his own. Do you guys have a team that you want me to look at before we take a quick peek at pitching? And then we're going to build some lineups in the single lineup sim. The lineup czar is here, building out the best goods in the single lineup sim. If you want to sign up for it, if you want to continue to play baseball for the rest of the year, you can sign up using the link in the description of this video. Come on over, get behind the paywall on the MLB side. Maybe you're an NFL guy. You could do the exact same thing that I'm going to do today on this MLB show, but with NFL data. Single lineup sim, projections, ownership, all that stuff. Overall sims, all of it. You can sign up there. Or just get every sport. Take an all sports package. Get every single thing we have. Projections and ownership, top stacks and top pitchers and top batters and optimal odds, all that stuff. Just take the full Megillah. Sign up below. Doug says Cardinals. Okay. Any dude named Acuna is a lock. Yeah, a lock to get hurt. I say that as a Braves fan. I'm allowed to say that. All right, let me look at the Cardinals here. Cardinals, 4.8 run implied total, 5% top stack odds. I got to 5%. I think the only real problem is the fact that Carmen Blodzinski isn't pulling any ownership. Surprise, surprise. Or whoever the shit ends up going for the Pirates. Okay, so this is sort of like a reverse Blue Jays. Stochastic has the Cardinals 3rd. I have them 7th. I have a 2% gap. I tend to think that I'm more right here, but, I'm open. These guys are straight free. This is the number 1 value team on the slate, and I think that's why I'm not getting so much more. To me, they're over-owned, except for Burleson. But they're the 3rd most owned team. The most expensive bat in the Cardinals lineup today is $3,800 Alec Burleson. They go 35, 38, 37, 36, and 3K flat 1 through 5. So yeah, getting to the Cardinals, simple. Filling out a stack with the Cardinals, simple. Do I like to get to them in this situation? No. because this is the optimizer team for today. This is the team that very easily shows up as a stack, and then you grab, Ohtani, Betts, and Michael Harris or something and eat all of that ownership elsewhere. So I'm not a huge fan of the Cardinals on a day like today. Orioles are another team that I didn't really get to. Birdsong on the opposite end. Lefty power looks all right here, whether that's Gunnar, Mullins, Santander, Kirkstad. I mean, basically the whole lineup. They're only going to have one righty. I do like the top of the order. A little under-owned on the Henderson, Mullins, Santander, Kirkstad group, but that's outfield too. So not surprised that I don't have much. And they are next level expensive. 23rd in value, 22nd for me. Actually, who do I have as the worst value team today? The Yankees. Yeah, makes sense. Just to hit on them because I don't have them. Dead last in value for me. Dead last in value for Stochastic in Seattle. Terrible matchup. Yeah, I don't like any of it. So let's take a look at my pitching because I don't know what we have right now. We have this. So Skubal is your most expensive pitcher at 10-6. I didn't get any of him. Dylan Cease is second. I did get 8% of Cease, but he's got this Astros matchup. You see Valdez in the 3 spot. Hard to want to prioritize either of them just because the environment isn't great. I have 3 priority pitchers for today. The highest owned guy on today's slate is Sonny Gray at around 25% owned. I have 42. So while I might not be getting to as much of the Cardinals' bats, pitching is where I want to be. Sonny Gray is your best option. He's the only guy that I have personally projected north of 20 fantasy points. I have him 2 points clear of everybody else. Stochastic has him 2 points clear of everybody else. Now, I have it as Tanner Babi. We have it as Skubal. Your mileage may vary. Tanner Babi is one of my 2 other heavily owned pitchers. Freddie Peralta is 11% owned. Tanner Babi is 13% owned. I have north of 30 on both guys. Now, I'm definitely scared of the Freddie Peralta play. He has the strikeout stuff. He does have weird days. The upside at 8,800, huge. My trust level, not so much. Guardians, on the other hand, slight favorites, super low implied total. Twins have a lot of power, but I like that trio. Gray, Peralta, Tanner Beebe. Now, I like Dean Kramer if you need to pay down. I think he's pretty clearly the best pay down option you can get, and I have 22%. I don't mind Nestor Cortez at 7,800. I think that salary is just helpful. And then I don't really have any issue getting to Spencer Schwellenbach, who I think gets underrated a bit. 8,400 for Schwellenbach. Braves are pretty sizable favorites on the road. The only downside is the park. But ultimately, I have 6 pitchers north of 10%. 2 different tiers. Gray, Peralta, Beebe. Schwellenbach, Cortez, Kramer. After that, I'm probably not getting to much. So what are you guys looking at pitching-wise? Are you taking a stand anywhere else? Is there somebody you want me to look at? So I'm pretty happy with what I see. And while we talk about that, I'm pulling up the sim. We're going to start building lineups for the final stretch of this show. Speaking of, it's not just this show that happens today, guys. We have multiple options for what you want to do today. We can start the NFL strategy show coming up next. Laffy and Greg Ehrenberg talking some pigskin. They're going to go from 10 until they're done. And then tonight, live before lock on the MLB side. Listen here, this is different. 5:30 Eastern time. Because this slate locks early, 6:30, MLB Live Before Lock is starting tonight at 5:30. Rays pitcher, Ryan Pepio. I mean, I have 8%. I mean, here's how much I think Ryan Pepio is correctly owned. I have him in 8%. He's 8% owned. I have his implied ownership at 8%. I have his chance of scoring 29 fantasy points at 8%. That dude should be 8% today. I can't really go a different direction. And then, who the hell's the Joker? Bowden Francis? I have 4%. Now, I will say that I think Francis is under-owned. The problem is, I think Schwellenbach for $100 more is even more under-owned. And it's getting me to Schwellenbach before I get to Francis. And to a bigger degree, to Tanner Beebe and Freddie Peralta, who are only $400 and $500 more expensive. So I don't see it for Francis all that much. I just think there are better options. On a different slate, that might be a little bit weirder because there's some strikeouts here. But I don't know. Doesn't seem like a guy that I'm going to be getting to. Let's build some lineups. Let's figure out how we can best maximize today's slate. Now, like usual, I want to start where I am. And that's not going to be the Braves. That's going to be the Blue Jays. So let's build a Blue Jays stack and see how smart I look. So let's go to Toronto. Sort by value. Now remember, this is going to be a little difficult because I am way higher on the Blue Jays than we are. So I'm going to start with the guys that I have to get from Toronto. And that is going to be George Springer, Bo Bichette, and Vlad Guerrero. The next two guys that I got to get, Kirk has to be one of them. And then I'm going to go to Davis Schneider at second. Now, I feel like we have a pretty decent chunk of salary here. We don't have a ton of ownership. So from a pitching perspective, I'm going to get Sonny Gray. And I'm going to go to Dean Kramer first. That leaves us $4,800 a person, third outfield. Now, who's the best third baseman that we can get to that has any value? Nolan Arenado is at $3,600. Not totally what I need. What I'm kind of intrigued by it's interesting. The Dodge, like, if I go Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, can I get another Dodger? And Tommy Edman? 98.5 projection, 90.9 ownership. So we'll start here. This is going to be our calibration option. 5-3 Blue Jays, Dodgers, Gray and Kramer. Should be a decent lineup. All right. We're out of the gates pretty good. 47% feels pretty nice. Now we can do way better here. So the first thing I want to do is really figure out who the third baseman is that we should be getting. Highest projected third baseman is Jose Ramirez. Now, he's not pulling all that much ownership, but he's not that good of a value. If I grab Nolan Arenado, I think I just end up with too much salary to get more of St. Louis. Like, if I take the two best St. Louis outfielders, that takes me to 4K. Now, that projection is 98.2. I think I can upgrade Dean Kramer in a massive way and really change the outlook of this lineup. This is going to pop. Because look what I'm doing here. That projection was better than what we had before. But now I'm going to take Dean Kramer, who was projected for 15.5, And I'm going to be able to gain 3 more fantasy points by simply just going to Dylan Cease. Now we're over 100. We're almost at 101, and we've shaved ownership. This might be massive. And I think we could still do better. I think I can get a more efficient Cease and swap out Newt Bar. Oh, the Czar is in the building, folks. Don't ever forget it. Don't no matter who shows up on this screen every day, this guy right here, the one you're staring at in the camera, no one's better at this than me. I'll lay down the challenge. No one wants this smoke. 80.3 on the Toronto Blue Jays stack. And I think we can do better than this. So let's make a note. 100.9. Can I put a sticky note on the screen? I can. All right. We can ignore the soccer sticky note that I have on here. We're going to say projection 100.91, ownership 87.64. What we're really trying to do is maximize projection and minimize ownership in the grand scheme of things. I'm oversimplifying for sure. Can I make that bigger? That's what she said. I can. Nice. All right, so that's our goal. So I could leave that hang right here. Now, what happens if we drop off a Cease? This is where I think things start to get fun. I just don't know if we're going to lose out because of correlation. If I go from Cease, who does look good, but I can go from Cease to Tanner Beebe and save another $1,100. Give me 1 second. Closing up a couple more of these notes. So now I have 4,700. Now the best outfielder that I can get is our boy Michael Harris. So what happens is we greatly increase our ownership from 87 to 104. We do gain an extra fantasy point. I think taking the second best guy over Harris will look better. I'm curious what happens now that this is a 5-2-1 instead of a 5-3. But at the very least, we need to check this out. I like having the little St. Louis stack alongside Gray. There's a little bit of synergy there. Yeah, 57. I'm not surprised by that. But what I want to do is find another 3-man. And it's all going to hinge on that third base spot. Because third base for the Blue Jays can be Ernie Clement, and we could start to change that scope, but I'd rather have Schneider. I think. So, since we have a lot of salary to spend, now Devers isn't cost effective. Third base in general isn't really cost effective. Nolan Arenado is really on a different planet for third baseman. Who's the most cost effective? Like Nolan Arenado as like basically the best projection and the 6th best value. We don't really have anybody in the 7 range. I'm going to go Vientos because I've seen a lot of people mention the Mets. If I go Vientos, Marte, and JD Martinez. Actually, I might want to go to Tyler. If I go to Taylor, I have 9,300. Taylor lets us go to... we're not even going to have to go to Taylor. If I take JD, who has the next best projection, the best pitcher I can get is actually DJ Hurst, which we're clearly not able to take. So I'm going to take Nestor Cortez. 96.64. So we're down 4 points, but we did cut ownership. This will be decent, but not good enough. What I do think I'm seeing here, though, yeah, 53. That looks great. Toronto is a team that I'm very, very happy to get to. Let's change the scope. Who do we want to look at? Who should we look at here? Do we want to see what we can do with the Chalk Brave stack? Do we want to see what we can do with the Chalk Dodger stack? Do we want to look just at the Mets? All right. Let's look at Miami. That's been a request. I don't expect to get anything here that I really like, but let's figure it out. So if we want to go to Miami, Jake Berger has to be in. The problem with putting Jake Berger in is then you have to skip out on Jonah Bride or Connor Norby. Jonah Bride is going to be that guy. So we're going to get Jake Berger. We're going to get Xavier Edwards, who's a terrible value. We're going to get Jesus Sanchez. We're going to get Connor Norby. And then it's got to be Kyle Stowers. Just no choice. We're trying to buy a homer. So there's your 5-man Miami. They're not cheap, which is really the problem with Miami. So I'm going to try Sonny Gray first, but I think that we could work our way into that like Peralta BB combo. But I'm going to start with Gray and Kramer. Most value we can get. Because we can afford to pay up now. Catcher, second, outfield. And we have 4,500 to go. So, best catcher you can get to is Will Smith. That does start to get a little interesting. Can we go Will Smith and 2 more Dodgers? And just game stack here? We're going to be a little short. All right, so this is where we're going to drop down off of Sonny Gray. Because if I drop down off of Sonny Gray, if I take Kike and Betts, no, now I don't have to drop down off of Sonny Gray and Sonny Gray. 95.74, 93 ownership. This isn't going to be very good. This is going to be 20% probably. I think Miami is too shitty today. I don't think that we can gain enough fantasy points. Yeah. I don't think Miami's the answer for today. Dodgers 5-man, St. Louis 3-man with Gray and Cortez. All right, let's figure it out. Gray in. Cortez in. Dodgers. Cardinals. All right, let's figure it out. DJ, go Mets, man. Go Mets. All right, so obviously St. Louis is going to be the easiest team to piece this together for. For the Dodgers, at the very least, I think we need to try and get their best stuff. So if we do that, I think Kike goes in. And I think we want Kike over Brendan Donovan. I think we're going to want Nolan Arenado at third. So I'm going to put Kike in at second. I'm going to get Teoscar, Freeman, Will Smith. It's got to be one of Betts or Ohtani, at least for right now. I'm just going to go Betts. We can sneak Ohtani back in later if we find out we have salary. Shortstop has to come from the Cards. That's going to be Mason Wynn. And then outfield can be whoever the best outfield is for St. Louis, which is going to be Lars Nootbaar. 102.67 and 113. So great projection. Ownership might be a little high. I'm expecting this to be in like the 40 range. But I think we can fix that pretty easily too. And I have one thing I'm going to want to try. All right, so we're at 40. If I pull Nootbaar and pull Sonny Gray, I can put in Ohtani. It leaves me 5,800 for a pitcher. The only option there is Hayden Birdsong. Now that's a 6 stack of the Dodgers. So I understand that we need to move one of these dudes. If I pull Kike, now Kike is incredible value here, but Brendan Donovan is even better than Kike for value. If I add Brendan Donovan, we're still 5-3. The best pitcher that I can get to. Does that really not exist? That can't. There's not a single pitch. That's not right. Oh, that is right. Holy shit. The only guy that we can get to is Carmen Mladodsky, who we're not going to go to. So this answer did not work the way that I wanted it to. I thought we might be able to get to Ohtani and Betts. All right. Miles, this was yours. So we did put that together pretty well. I'm pulling Cortez. And now, let's just say I get Dean Kramer, who I think is the best pay down. Who's left? 6,800 is the best we can do. That would be Quintana. 100 and 106. This is going to be basically the same area. It's 2 owned, not enough projection. It's the Betts Ohtani combo ruins us. Replace Hernandez with Edman. Okay. 48 again. All right. Replace Hernandez. With Tommy Edman. If we then grab Kramer, best pitcher we can get is Landon Knack, which actually I kind of like, but we're still way too low on projection. I don't think we can do Ohtani and Betts. I think that's the limiting factor. Can I go 4-4? If I add Burleson and Sonny Gray, I have 7,300 left for a pitcher. That can be Kramer or Landon Knack. If I go Knack for the synergy, that's a kind of fun lineup. 4-man Cardinals, 4-man Dodgers, but both pitchers. 102.07 projection, 109.84. This is going to be in the 50 to 60 range on this 4-4. But I love the synergy because if it goes well for the Dodgers and it goes well for the Cardinals stacks, you're going to assume that Sonny Gray and Landon Knack are at least in line for wins. $31. Interesting. Little surprised by that. If I pull Donovan, I can make it Kike. Can I upgrade Knack? I can upgrade Knack to hers then, which is a 2.5 point increase. 102.66 and 109. We're starting to knock on the door. We're going to be able to do one more after this. Steven, drop that 5-man O's, 2-man Braves. That's going to be the last one we're going to be able to get to. Yeah, 37. Interesting. Prophecy. I'll try to move quickly here. Can you check a Kansas City with Witt, Salvi, Skinny stack? All right, let me get Steven Leibowitz first. since he has the whole lineup here. So that's going to be Quintana and Cortez, Baltimore and Atlanta. So that's going to be it's going to be Sean Murphy in this case. I see what you're saying there. Hopefully that works out the way we want it to. O'Hearn, Holiday, Ursh. Who the hell do you have it short? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have Gunner? I'll come back to it. Santander, Mullins, Harris. It's got to be Gunner, clearly. 93-24, but 70 ownership. It's going to be very low owned, but we need to save projection here in a big way. We are getting absolutely steamrolled from a projection standpoint. That projection needs to be like 4 or 5 points higher for us to feel really good here. Yeah. But we can probably squeeze that out pretty easy too. Even just redistributing the pitching would help. But if I take the pitchers out, what's the best value for Baltimore? Rivera, Mullins. All right, so if I take out Santander for Kirkstadt, that will help out a lot here and will allow us to do something very different pitching and increase this lineup in a big way. Since we have Baltimore, there's no reason to not take Dean Kramer. And then if we take Kramer, we have enough to get to Sonny Gray. Now our projection is 97.7. So this is a pretty solid increase in projection, but we didn't really haircut ownership. Yeah, we get to 43. There's something here. And we still have $700 left. That's really where we can upgrade in a big way. Can I take out an Oriole for a Brave? Who's the worst Oriole in this lineup? Probably Kirkstadt, honestly. If I pull O'Hearn, can I get I can get Matt Olson. We can pull O'Hearn for Olson and gain 2.15 points. Now we're at 99.8 and 114. Now that's still like, we obviously know that we're looking for 101 and sub 90, but that's pretty good. 20 point, really? Too much ownership, I guess? Can we redistribute Sonny Gray and the pitching? Instead of Sonny Gray, can we grab Schwellenbach and Kramer? That leaves us too much money, but that would probably let us tweak things. If we respend that $1,200, we can probably change this up. We're going to have to get out of here, though, unfortunately. 5 minutes to go until the NFL strategy show pops up. We already built an 80%er, so we know that we're incredible at this. Is there anything I could do to save this lineup and make it a little bit better? I don't think that it's a Jackson Holiday issue. Yeah, if I pull Mullins, what does that become? I can pull Mullins and get Ozuna. I mean, that's an upgrade. If I leave Mullins and pull Kirkstadt, what happens? I can get to Soler. Now we're at 5-3 Atlanta. under 100 ownership, 98 projection. This is the final one, and then we're getting out of here, folks. Thank you for being here. Make sure you're hitting the like button if you're here. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Do all that stuff. I'll back up into the 40s. It's a fun slate. It's an absolutely fun slate. I'm excited to play it. So you guys be ready for it. I got bets in already. Go check out Tails on Odd Shopper. Odd Shopper Live coming up in 2 hours on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. But for now, NFL Strategy Show coming up next. Don't miss it. Lofty and Greg. Peace.